This is about declaring energy independence from China. And I want to thank NatCon for making this possible as well. How do we truly end our dependence on China and achieve American energy independence? Well, American leadership has gifted China industrial and manufacturing advantage over the United States for decades. And this has devastated American employees and hollowed out and impoverished our towns all across the United States. President Trump and his team are reversing the course of American energy subservience to China. The supply chains of our so-called renewable energy are tainted with enriching China, in many cases supporting forced labor, not to mention the sheer fact that the money tends to go to Chinese state-owned enterprises, some of which put remote-controlled devices and data transmitters in the solar panels, which sends information back to the manufacturers and data centers in China. The rare earth elements needed for the system's green energy sources like wind and solar, but especially the energy storage, also offset many of the arguments about their greenness, as mining, turning over thousands of tons of earth to get to the rare earths, combined with the intense refinement processes, is not what activists would actually call environmentally friendly. These green energy sources, the rare earth elements, are almost universally dominated by China, which controls around 80%, sometimes 90%, sometimes a little less, depending on the element, of the global market through a combination of rock-bottom pricing, slave labor that I mentioned, and the massive state subsidies designed to get the world addicted to their cheap components before raising the prices. So these things are used as tools and weapons. You just have to look at the CCP's use of rare earth export controls. And these sources aren't always reliable. I mean, American industry demands reliable energy because in an AI world, a 5G and coming 6G world, industrial processes will fail and consumers will suffer from even momentary interruptions in power. Just think if you're in a self-driving car, for instance. And this is especially true in the sectors that we see driving growth in the coming years, such as semiconductor manufacturing and data centers. We can't afford to have American industry lag behind because electricity isn't reliable and abundant enough, as if something like that could even be acceptable in the United States in 2025 and going forward. And these changes in policy, they were driven primarily by what could generally be called an uninformed activist class, assisted by green NGOs and paid protesters, all of whom see nuclear reactor cooling towers and seek to have them destroyed. And while some of these activists, such as those from Code Pink, could be dismissed perhaps on the basis of being uninformed, unfortunately, their motivations are led by useful idiots who, if they could, would be sprinting up on stage right now to yell about China not being our enemy, while their CEO's husband practically works for the CCP and certainly lives in China. The CCP has also taken a more overtly offensive reaction against companies which work at making America more energy secure. It bears repeating that when Westinghouse went to China in the early 2000s, they were compelled into a joint venture and forced IP transfer, required of any American company to operate in China with the CCP. And this aggressive policy toward foreign companies is underscored by China's requirement for CCP board seats and intensive oversight of operations. And the partnership at Westinghouse, as noted by Robert Lighthizer and numerous others, eventually led to Westinghouse giving over decades of nuclear power research. And even then, the CCP wasn't satisfied. They hacked Westinghouse and stole designs outright. And a state-owned nuclear company in China unveiled a copy of Westinghouse reactor years later. This happens to the tune of hundreds of billions of dollars every year throughout our sectors, and it props up China's industry while destroying and undermining our own. And it poses an even larger threat when it affects our country's energy supply. And this isn't to mention the ongoing federal government-sponsored IP transfer schemes, such as those that unfortunately exist at many of our scientific institutions, such as the taxpayer-funded National Science Foundation. This sort of activity by the CCP comes as China adds nearly a Michigan or North Carolina worth of electricity every single month. It's approximately 31.5 gigawatts per month in 2024. China chooses an all-of-the-above strategy, and it's certainly working for the country. They've been increasing their coal consumption, accounting for about a third of the world's demand. They make carbon emission and green pledges, but it's always a forward-facing date, reaching peak carbon emissions in some far-off time that always seems to elude being realized, following a pattern where China does not keep its commitments. And even with their embrace of green energy, China faces reliability problems in some parts of their country because of their over-reliance on wind and solar. That America ever went along with the net zero path is appalling. An America that aimed for net zero was bound for thousands of hours of lost load, inefficiencies, and brown and blackouts as a policy choice. That America tells the story of a future that we avoided with the election of President Trump: stagnation, dependency, energy scarcity. We can see America is now back on a strong track. President Trump, through his guidance on executive orders in combination with actions taken by Congress in the One Big Beautiful Bill, has made strides to ensure that America's energy is unleashed. Ending expensive, subsidized, inefficient, and disruptive offshore and onshore wind projects, withdrawing from international climate agreements to which other countries adhere only in word, and focusing on increasing production here at home are some of the steps that the President and his cabinet have taken in the months since Inauguration Day. While listing all of these is perhaps too exhaustive, I do want to focus on some of them that I truly believe will make a difference in declaring the United States true energy independence from China and make us energy self-sufficient. First, America has a vast natural wealth of energy resources that activists want us to swear off and not use. And it bears repeating that America has the ability to be a prolific, robust producer of fossil fuel resources. America has 29 billion barrels worth of untapped resources in federal lands alone. Half of these are in Alaska, and the Permian Basin of the Southwest has another 8.9 billion barrels. The recoverable amount of coal in the United States is over 249.8 billion short tons out of a total reserve of 469 billion tons. America has 603.6 trillion cubic feet of proven reserves of natural gas, though this number fluctuates quite a bit based on market price and availability. The Marcellus Shale, for example, and the Utica Shale below it, prolific in natural gas, largely untapped and directly underneath massive energy markets in the Northeast. It's enough to power the entire world for over 300 years. President Trump is unlocking the potential of American resources. Second, President Trump is seeking to keep coal as a backbone of America's energy because it's plentiful, reliable, and consistent, exactly what our energy grid needs. And this isn't to take a dig at natural gas, but coal industry's vilification is unfair, unscientific, and unproductive. And third, permitting. When the National Environmental Policy Act, the Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, and Endangered Species Act, and countless other pieces of legislation all come to a head with activists, lawyers, judges, and builders all fighting over a single river snail species that isn't really endangered, what are we doing? Is this the intention of these laws when they were passed? Should environmental reviews take decades to break ground on the Resolution copper mine and even then be halted on technicalities when the area has historically already been known for mining? And fourth, perhaps most revolutionary, is the president's embrace of nuclear energy. Not since Richard Nixon's dream of 1,000 nuclear plants has the United States embraced so fully the potential of nuclear fission for the purposes of creating energy that one day might be almost too cheap to meter. Small modular reactors may serve as the goal, but even reactivating and uprating existing reactors can prove that America has the ability to build nuclear and reopen nuclear. Just think of the Microsoft plant that's gone there at 3 Mile Island after it had been shuttered for decade after decade. And to conclude, America must not erode our security and prosperity by enriching and empowering China. We have domestic energy to power our country and our allies. We must not choose energy scarcity and be slaves to China. We must choose energy security, reliability, and abundance. We will achieve President Trump's vision of American energy dominance. Thank you.